All right, so at some point, you're going to want to learn how to put your own things in a grid map, such as your own custom colors, for example. You do that by changing the meshlib that's in it, and you can make a new meshlib. Well, I have to show you how to make a new meshlib. So the first thing you do is go to the blocks scene, which is under scenes dev. And the block scene contains all of the blocks in library large. So this will just make sure that your library contains all of the blocks in library large and you can make new things. Now, I already have a new form here, and I was trying an experiment with putting two mesh instances under each other. It turns out it doesn't work. You only see the first mesh instance in your block. So there's a couple of things I want to note here. First of all, your mesh instance, as you can see with the cylinder, does not need to take up only one square. It does not need to have default rotation, and it doesn't need to be a cube. It can be any single mesh instance, including array meshes if you really want to get fancy. You will run into problems with that if you try to use Chris's fake grid map converter, which turns everything into mesh instances. I have another video on that if you'd like to check out what that converter is and why you might want to do it. You won't want to do it for now. So I have, let's say I want to copy this one. So let's actually copy the mesh instance instead of the shape. So now I just have a cube. But I have a problem because now it is second in this list. If I now, let's actually convert this and show you what that'll do. So convert to meshlib. And let's head back over to my level and reload it. All of the blocks in here have changed because the index was changed. This wasn't changed because it is still the same. Well, actually, it was changed. There was nothing there before. There was a ghost object, and now where I had cylinders, I have those two things. So what happened there is that the resource identification for each of the blocks in meshlib is determined by their position in the scene tree. And I just put a new one in the middle of all of these. So that increased all the count of these other ones by 1. So there's two things here that you want to be careful of. The first one is that any new mesh instance should go to the bottom of the list so that it doesn't conflict with existing ones. And it's a bit hard to place things at the bottom of the list. There we go. So I can't place it in the outermost one when it's at the bottom of it. Whatever, Godot scene tree doesn't really make sense. So now, if I save this and convert it to a meshlib, and save over my previous one, make all the thumbnails again, and before I see any changes here, I will need to reload the saved scene. Now, everything is back to normal, and you can see that my new block has already been placed. That's the second thing you need to be careful of. If you ever reduce the number of blocks in your mesh library, say if I delete mesh instance 37 here, then my level will no longer have a resource. Oh, I did not convert that to a meshlib, so there was no changes for that to happen there. I saved the scene, but I did not convert it to a mesh library. There we go, and now when I reload this, that block is gone. Not actually gone. What happens here is that I now have a ghost block at this index. That will not normally matter for any of your maps, but if you're using any block swapping tools, or if you're using any editor scripts based around looking at grid maps, you are now going to have an invisible block there with an invalid ID. So be wary of that. But you don't need to care about that unless you're using advanced scripts or getting into advanced scripting. And at that point, I trust you to figure out what to do for yourself. So for now, let's undo that. Oh, it's a while back. So for now, this is blocks. Let's go to my blocks. Let's duplicate this again. Let's move it to the bottom of the thing again so I can actually make my own fresh mesh instance. And then, so it's hard to place things at the bottom, so I just place one second to the bottom, then move it up. It works. So now I want to go to, I say I want to make my own custom color. I would go down to material here, go down to albedo, which is a fancy word for the color that bounces off of stuff. Color of light that bounces off it, and I'd make, I don't know, my bright pink. You'll notice this also changed. That's because I made another mistake. So let's make those back, and this material, is common to every block that uses this material. So I actually want to make unique this material before I do anything to it. And now when I change the color, it's only this block that changes. So let's, make my kind of weird greeny blue again, whatever. I'm going to call this my custom color, which is obviously the best color to ever exist, and a mechanic is sublime. Or I guess that's more of a super lime. So convert to mesh library. Now I can go back to my level and I can, is this in it yet? No, I need to reload the saved scene in order for it to, what did I do? Now the only color that's registering this is the one that I already had. I haven't really seen this problem before. Invalid image, so something went wrong there. I have a feeling like some of the thumbnails were not correctly created, and that's what caused that problem. So let's just reload the scene again. Here we go. So sometimes you'll just need to reconvert the mesh instance. Not really sure what that happened. Here's the real issue you might run into if you're making your own meshlibs, and you're not doing advanced scripting. I didn't place this block, but it was already there. So since it's already there, since that resource ID 217 or whatever was already around, as soon as 217 was a viable one, it placed it there. But now I have my own custom resource. If I want to export this map, I will now need to export this mesh library, which means I will also need to export that material. So when I'm getting ready to release my map, I'll go to all of my custom colors in here, and I will go to these materials, and I will make them local to scene, and then I'll click Make Unique again to pack them in with the mesh library. After I convert the mesh library, and I re-equip it to my level, I now need to go to this mesh library, and I need to make unique. But my troubles aren't over. I need to go into this mesh library. I need to go into item all the way to, nope, that's not where I need to go. I need to go to resource and click local to scene. And now out of paranoia's sake, I'm just going to go back and click on, wrong button, click on make unique again. And this is going to make sure that my mesh library is included with my map. For more details on resources, such as textures that you might want to add to your mesh library, to your custom color, custom blocks, I already have a video on how to include resources, including textures, on your blocks. So you'll want to check that one out. That's how you make custom colors or entire different custom blocks to add to your grid map.